Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review DCeased #1. This is the zombie-like tale that we've been waiting for a long time from Tom Taylor. We've all seen the epic variant covers that seem to be everywhere with different, it seems like almost every comic shop seems to have their own cover on this. This seems to be really an exciting new series by Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor, of course, being the writer who's written all the Injustice series. He's done a great job on that. Tom Taylor is probably many comic book readers like myself. He's a fan favorite. He's a great writer. The artists in this particular series are Trevor Hairsine, who did some previous work on Legends of the Dark Knight, and Stefano Gaudiano, who does some Walking Dead art in the Walking Dead series. This is Darkseid making manifest the anti-life equation. This is Darkseid invading the Earth and the Justice League heroically defeating Darkseid. But it ends up that Darkseid attacking the Earth, and while Superman breaks his jaw and Darkseid really seems to get the crap beat right out of him and he's defeated soundly by the Justice League, Darkseid says something very ominous that Green Arrow picks up on. And that is the fact that, that's fine, I got what I came for. Darkseid leaves. So Superman breaks his jaw. Wonder Woman submits him, compels him to admit his loss through the magic lasso. Darkseid has no problem leaving. Why? Because it's all a distraction. Darkseid attacks the Earth, clearly for another reason. And what is that reason? He wanted to kidnap Cyborg. Now, why would Darkseid want to kidnap Cyborg? Well, we all know that Darkseid has always had an obsession with the anti-life equation. The anti-life equation, which basically, once you invoke the anti-life equation, it gives the person who controls the anti-life equation the control over your free will. It takes away your free will. Grant Morrison did this a really good job of exploring the ramifications of he who controls the anti-life equation in his series, the Final Crisis, where the entire Earth was infected by the anti-life equation, and Darkseid controlled all. But in this case, Tom Taylor does a great job of very creatively and innovatively coming up with a very different take on the anti-life equation. What if the anti-life equation itself becomes changed? What if the anti-life equation becomes perverted and changed and manipulated in some way? And it's sort of like baking a cake. You know, what if you change one ingredient? What effect could that make? So change one bit of the anti-life equation, and how would that change the equation? Because here's an interesting fact. Now let me tell you what the anti-life equation is. The anti-life equation, you take loneliness plus alienation plus fear plus despair plus self-worth divided by mockery, condemnation, misunderstanding, multiplied by guilt, shame, failure, and judgment. You'll find that hope equals folly, life equals death, love equals lies, and the self equals Darkseid, and Darkseid is, and Darkseid controls all. But what happens if that equation gets perverted? Well, that's exactly what happens here in this intricately and brilliantly woven plot by Tom Taylor. Because with Cyborg captured, DCeased reveals to Cyborg that in fact Darkseid, in trying to find the anti-life equation, Darkseid has always possessed one half of the anti-life equation. And Darkseid discovers that the other half of the anti-life equation is on Earth and is actually contained within Cyborg. Now what's interesting about that is that part of Cyborg's origin is that he's got apocalyptic technology in his makeup. Remember that the Mother Box was sort of helped facilitate the origin of Cyborg. Think of the Justice League movie to oversimplify it. But basically there is apocalyptic technology within Cyborg. And so the fact that Cyborg's on Earth, for whatever reason, the other half of the anti-life equation is discovered to be within Cyborg. That's what Darkseid wants. And so Darkseid wants to obtain that. And he uses DCeased brilliantly to basically torture Cyborg to get it. And at one point, he even tells DCeased to remove Cyborg's tongue because Cyborg's making jokes and being quite brave while he's on the table being experimented on by DCeased. And, you know, Darkseid makes this entrance, and Tom Taylor's so good with dialogue. Tom Taylor knows these characters so well. Bendis, take notes. Tom King, take notes, please. Tom Taylor he knows these characters like the back of his hand, and he writes them so well. When he has Darkseid tell DCeased to remove Cyborg's tongue because Cyborg makes some mocking joke about Darkseid, you know, making an entrance. You know, did you deliberately wait for DCeased to say something before you made an entrance, Darkseid? Please. I mean, It's great stuff. Even with Green Arrow making some comment about when Darkseid left, and Darkseid said, "That's okay, I'll leave. I got what I came for." Even Green Arrow muttering under his breath, "Is anybody else a little worried about that ominous last sentence?" I mean, it's just brilliantly written stuff. It's really good stuff. And interestingly enough, when Darkseid leaves, Batman right away notices that Cyborg is missing, and I love how Tom Taylor sort of illustrates so perfectly Batman's paranoia and the way the rest of the Justice League members think about Batman. Because Batman right away notices Cyborg's missing, and everyone's saying to him, "Well, how do you know Cyborg's missing? He's just not around. He's probably on Earth." And Batman says, "No, he's not on Earth. I happen to know he's not on Earth because I've been tracking Cyborg for a long time." And they go, "What do you mean you've been tracking Cyborg all this time? You've hacked? How long have you been hacking into Cyborg?" And Batman says, "Look, Cyborg's got apocalyptic technology in him. He's a danger to all of us. Yeah, I've been tracking him." And Wonder Woman asks him, "Well, how do you know he's not on Earth?" And well, apparently Batman is able to track Cyborg up to 2 light years away. So because he can't locate Cyborg, he knows that Cyborg is not only more than 2 light years away, but he is gone. He can't be found. And of course, he's on Apocolips, which is literally in another, I guess you could say probably another realm, another dimension, really, existing outside in another part of the multiverse. And so that's quite good, and it shows the paranoia that the people have toward Batman. But as Wonder Woman says, "Look, let's not debate Batman's morality at this point. We need to find Cyborg." So Superman goes, and he's going to recruit Mr. Miracle and Big Bird to try to go to Apokolips and try to find Cyborg, because they have a pretty good idea that's probably where he is. Meanwhile, back on Apokolips, DCeased experimenting on Cyborg, and DCeased tries to combine the two anti-life equations together, because Darkseid embodies one half of the equation, meanwhile Cyborg embodies, in his technological makeup, the other half of the equation. But in order to merge them, DCeased tells Darkseid, "Look, the problem if we merge and we have the full equation, we're going to have to keep Cyborg alive, because if Cyborg dies, the equation will die with Cyborg." So Darkseid knows that he's got to somehow keep Cyborg alive once the two half of the equations are merged. So what he does is that Darkseid does something epic, and I applaud Tom Taylor again for having the creativity to do this, because it's absolutely brilliant. He has Darkseid call upon the Black Racer. Now the Black Racer in, I guess, New Genesis lore, or particularly in the last 50 to 20 years, the Black Racer is often associated with the Flash, and the Black Racer was used in Final Crisis as being sort of someone who, when the Black Racer is chasing you, that's basically death. You're pretty much screwed. The Black Racer can kill gods. So if the Black Racer is chasing you, like he was chasing the Flash in Final Crisis, if he catches up to you, you know you're dead. But Darkseid calls upon the Black Racer because, and he wants to use an aspect of death to inject it into the anti-life equation. As the two halves of the equation are merging, Darkseid commands the Black Racer to have an influence on it to basically somehow keep Cyborg alive. Now, I'm not sure what the logic is behind that. I don't really understand it, but apparently Darkseid thought it was a good idea, and it would end up being a disastrous idea, because I'll get to that in a moment. He takes Black Racer, and an aspect of death that the Black Racer has is injected into the formula, into the anti-life equation, and it perverts the anti-life equation in such a way that when the anti-life equation manifests, it's no longer quite the same, and it infects Darkseid himself. So Darkseid does not have control over the equation, and as the Black Racer himself says once it happens, it's like, it's now time for a god to die, because it basically it infects Darkseid. The anti-life equation appears to no longer be about commanding, or it seems to no longer, it does more than simply take away free will. It seems now to change, to convert anyone who's a victim or who suffers from this new perverted form of the anti-life equation. They not only lose their free will, but they become monsters, and they tear at themselves. And Darkseid himself tears at himself, trying to get the equation out of him, and so you even try to rip your own face off. And it drives Darkseid insane, and Darkseid flies into the core of Apokolips, and Apokolips is completely destroyed. So in a brilliantly illustrated scene, we have that, and again, a credit to Trevor Hairsine and Stefano Gaudiano, a great scene where it shows that Darkseid is, and then as Apocolips is destroyed, it has those words, Darkseid was. So a very poignant scene, hugely epic way to open up this series, really good. And before Apocolips is destroyed, DCeased, in a desperate attempt to try to stop the chaos that he sees very quickly happening, because he realizes it's all his fault, he thinks it's Cyborg's fault. There's something happening in Cyborg. So he transports Cyborg away to Earth, back to Earth, to get it away from Cyborg. That creates disaster for Earth, as you can imagine, because now when Cyborg gets to Earth, he immediately makes a connection to the World Wide Web, the World Wide Internet. And the equation leaps to the internet, and then everyone on Earth, literally within an hour, 600 million people are infected on the planet Earth, and they're infected with this new perverted form of the anti-life equation, and they start clawing at their eyes, and they start going crazy. Meanwhile, Superman, who's in the middle of recruiting Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, he sees what's happening. And in a poignant scene, he says, the world is screaming, what's going on? And he flies and he sees, it shows a street where people are going insane and they're clawing their eyes out and they're trying to get this equation out of them. And they've not only lost free will, but they're all turning into monsters and killing each other. And it's absolute chaos. And Superman right away makes the connection that this is something to do with the internet. This is a techno-virus that is destroying everything. It's infecting everything. And if it's a techno-virus on a world like ours where everything is related to the internet, this is potential disaster. Flash forward then to Batman in the Batcave. Fortunately, Batman has his own computer backup system, and he's got an analog system in place in case that the internet becomes corrupted. Because he's Batman, he's always prepared to a certain extent. You remember that, right? We're talking Batman here. Unfortunately for Batman, as much as he figures out that 600 million are infected, he also figures out that within hours, the billions more would be affected on Earth. So he's got to do something. The first thing he does, he's got to make sure that Alfred and everyone else in Wayne Manor is okay. But he realizes that they're still online. And the Bat computer tells him, no, they're still online, they're still connected to the internet. So Batman initiates an electromagnetic pulse, which we all know, at least from all our nuclear war readings, an electromagnetic pulse destroys the internet, it destroys all electronic communication. So an electromagnetic pulse occurs, but it's too late. Tim Drake and Nightwing, Dick Grayson, are already infected by this new perverted anti-life equation, and he gets to the Wayne Manor, and Alfred's still okay at this point, but this comic book ends with a final page that is gut-wrenching as it shows Nightwing biting into the neck of Batman. Guys, this is absolutely horrifying, and there's a wonderful phrase at the end that whoever is narrating this, I think it's Batman narrating this series, but I might be wrong, but I'm guessing that it's Batman doing their narration after the fact, because somebody is telling the story of what happened here, and I think it's Batman, but I could be mistaken. He says, by the time I was grown, I'd seen too many monsters. I knew they were real. There was one thing, however, I didn't know. There's a monster inside all of us. And that's what the series is. Clearly, Tom Taylor's laid it out for us. There's a monster inside all of us. And this equation, this new perverted life, it doesn't just take away free will. It brings forth the monster in all of us. The horror in all of us. That's what makes this is going to make this series so interesting, to see the horrific side of all of us. How are they going to combat this? I don't know. But this is a really exciting tale. Tom Taylor, man, he understands the DC universe so well. He understands these characters, and I can think of no better writer to write a story as horrific as this, while at the same time someone who understands the established characterizations of all the many players that make up the DC universe. Everything from the way that he wrote Alfred, to Batman, to Green Arrow, to Black Canary, to Big Barda, to Mr. Miracle, to Superman, to Lois Lane, to John Kent in this issue, and Damian, as Damian worries about Batman. Damian is visiting the Kents, John Kent, and they appear to be their younger selves as well. He's not grown up, which is great. So we're not dealing with a 17-year-old John Kent. We're dealing with a younger one. At least it appears that way, thank God. Tom Taylor just seems to have an understanding of these characters, and this really, really works well. If you are looking for a DC zombie tale, this is it. We all know how well the Marvel, remember I think it was that zombie series with Marvel Zombies, written by Robert Kirkman, did Marvel Zombies way back in the day. this is DC's version of that, and this is epic. This is starting off with a bang, well worth your money. Right now, the DC universe, most of the titles they're not particularly exciting. You know, Justice League is maybe picking up the steam a little bit, but for the most part, you know, not much. There's not a lot of excitement in Superman or Action or Aquaman. Wonder Woman is a bore fest. Batman is a bore fest. It's going nowhere. This is probably immediately, this is already my favorite series of DC so far, and unfortunately, naturally, it is in fact an Elseworlds tale, but I like that because it allows Tom Taylor to do what he wants. And you know, what's ironic is that this is an Elseworlds tale, essentially, but all these characters are written better than any of those characters currently being written in the DC universe. And that's why Tom Taylor is a god, and really all other writers that are currently make up the DC echelon and particularly the editors, you know, maybe take note, listen to Tom Taylor. This is a guy that knows what he's doing. This is the new Jeff Johns, quite frankly. Tom Taylor, man, you are a god, you rock. And kudos again to the artists, Trevor Harrison and Stefano Gaudiano. Great job, guys. Guys, tell me what you think of DCeased #1, and check out all those variant covers because they are epic. I mean, they're all over the place. They're fantastic. Tell me what you think. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. Hit the subscribe button, and until next time, Comic Boom out.